On this week's Gridiron Report, we have some Detroit Red Wings front office news and a ranking of the Lions position groups. And it's all brought to you by our new friends at Old Glory. Use promo code GRIT for 21% off any product. Let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim. From the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the grit iron report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The grit iron report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions first all Detroit sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd, and while I can feel it in the air, we are driving straight towards the NFL, towards football season. We do have some hockey news that we need to cover. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, the news has already been out there for about a week. It's just one of those things that happened to break right after we were recording our previous episode. But the Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman are officially parting ways. Technically, he is stepping down somewhat abruptly as our general manager. Obviously, they have too much respect for him from the time being a player in this league, so he's not actually fired, which I don't think anyone ever thought he was going to be fired. He is technically moving on to a different position. I think he's going to be like a senior analysis for Chris Ilitch or whoever the new GM is. He's moving on in the front office. But nonetheless, Steve Yzerman is no longer the GM of the Detroit Red Wings. I think a lot of people would say good riddance, too far, it needed to happen, right?
The writing was certainly on the wall, but like, I guess my mindset is like, it sucks. Regardless, it sucks. It sucks that, we've been so mid for years. This is 7 years in the Yzerman tenure, and still no playoff appearances, let alone, a playoff run, a win, anything like that. Like, so yes, all of that sucks. But yeah, I still don't know how to feel, because he did some really good things as GM as well. His first ever draft pick as Red Wings GM, drafted a guy by the name of Mo Sider. That's not too bad, man. First couple draft picks were incredible. Drafted Lucas Raymond as well. Firing at all cylinders, and then just mid picks, and that's just the draft of it all in the last like 4 or 5 years. That's not even getting into trade deadline, things going on at the trade deadline, or maybe lack thereof. Certainly conflict between Yzerman and your captain Dylan Larkin. So like, dude, it's all, for me, it's like, this is a dumpster fire. Like, did I want him gone? Do I want Yzerman to stay? I was honestly on the fence, but just the fact that he's gone now, and possibly signaling another at least soft rebuild for this team, more just being mid, being ass, like I can't take it anymore, and I see no end in sight. So like, as a fan, I feel like the fans are losing the most out of everyone right now.
And that's what you hate when that happens. It's whether you want him to go. Like I said, I think most people, while a lot of people probably were on the fence like yourself, I think most people are like, okay, like I'm not like, no, I don't think anyone's like sitting here mad about this. It's really brutal. I mean, the word around the street, around the league, is that he's difficult to deal with. Free agents have said repeatedly when they were out talking to teams, for some reason he was a difficult GM to work with, and these are free agents that we're trying to sign. So it players on our own team said like he's difficult to work with, and so it almost is like, why did he just have to be such a hard ass all the time? I mean, even going back to his time as a player with the Red Wings, it was said that like, when with the Russian Five and all the good teams we had back then, after like championships and just big games, like the team would go out and celebrate, and he was just like a no nonsense, like never having fun, would get mad at guys that were kind of messing around. And like, he's always just seems like maybe he's had to stick up his butt. And it does suck, because you're right. We're the ones that are suffering through this. Now, no one's saying when he took over from Kenny Holland that like it was going to be an easy job. I think everyone knew it was going to be a prolonged, playoff drought. Like, it wasn't just going to be take back over and we're good to go. And you mentioned his draft picks. I think he definitely didn't help himself out. I mean, yeah, he obviously kind of struck gold with Mo when he took Sider. That was a little bit of a sleeper pick that obviously ended up being great. I think Lucas Raymond was less of a sleeper pick, but still, he He was fourth overall. Credit to the guy. He ended up taking him. And then you have Simon Edvinsson in 2021, who looks like he's going to be a piece here moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
Sebastian Cossa just after him, who is, just an absolute bungle of a situation there with all the goalies there. I guess Carter Mazur was in that draft class, so like maybe he has something there. But then you have, just everyone else was just an absolute fail. Marco Kasper, you can say probably had a sophomore slump, did okay. Everyone else in the 2022 draft class was just, maybe Lombardi down in the system still doing okay. And then 2023, just it's over and over and over again. He just kind of missed. And whether that was him, the company he kept around him with the scouting team there, like no reason an original 6 team should currently hold the longest active playoff drought in NHL, and just especially with all this news about Larkin coming out and talking about with the Olympics and talking with guys, and it was kind of rumored that like Detroit is no longer held in this grandiose way, and like we're no longer really seen as like one of the pure hockey towns. And I think Steve Yzerman has a direct cause of that, just the way he's handled this franchise over the last 8-10 years. And it's a damn shame. Like I said, just being such a hard ass for no reason, don't let the door hit you on the way out, buddy.
If that's true, and like the way that he works is like actually hindering our chances of like getting free agents, then that absolutely sucks. Because like you already look at a market like Detroit, like yes, all right, you do have the quote unquote hockey town. Besides that though, like if I'm like a 24-year-old like up and coming, getting into the prime of my career, am I going to want to sign in Detroit, or I'm going to want to, go to Dallas where like, just tons of smoke shows, good weather, whatever. Like, I'm going Dallas like 10 times out of 10, or even Florida. Like, again, state income tax is a huge like factor that like a lot of these players want to play for those teams in like Tennessee or in Florida or in Texas. But still, like, you already are behind the 8 ball if you're Detroit. Like, it's just not like a premier destination. And then, if that's true that you have a GM who just is just making it even worse, and making it harder to sign these players, like that absolutely sucks, man. And maybe that's a reason why we can't get these trades done at the deadline. Like maybe Stevie Y is trying, but he's just an asshole. I'm not really sure. Again, that's all speculation. We're not like out we're not experts. We're not like super plugged in, but those are the rumors. And so I don't know. Maybe you can get another guy in here who can do anything else. Like, I will say, the Wings farm system, it is pretty good. Like, it's still probably touted as, a fringe top 5 system in the league. And so there is talent that Stevie Y has built, like, mostly through those early drafts. But at some point, like, enough is enough. Like, yeah, you can have a farm system. You can say, like, oh, these 19, 20, 21-year-olds, like, they're going to pan out. They're going to be in the league in, like, 3 years, whatever. But, the team isn't winning now and needs this veteran presence. You need a guy who's like, 29 years old, ready to win a cup, or maybe has already won a cup. You bring him in, and it seems like time and time again at the deadline, Stevie Y wasn't able to do that for one reason or another, or not willing to do that. And we saw it, it rubbed Larkin the wrong way last season. This season, obviously, even more of a train wreck, like everything going on with him and Stevie Y. So it's a dumpster fire, like however you want to read into it. Like, it's not a good look for a formerly prestigious NHL franchise, original 6. We're kind of the laughingstock of the league right now. 10 straight misses of the playoffs. Like, there's actually like statistical analysis on like how hard that is to do actually in the NHL, to miss the playoffs 10 times. Like, you're going to luck into it at least once. There's so much parity in the league. You're just bound to make the playoffs, even if your team isn't that good. The fact that we haven't done it in 10 years is it's a statistical anomaly. It's super embarrassing. I'm so like just sour on the Red Wings right now. And I want that to change because I love the Red Wings, but it's a fact of the matter right now. Has
there been anyone who has tarnished his own legacy by his own doing more than Steve Yzerman? Like, you can point to Joe Dumars, and it got pretty dark there for a few years for the Pistons, and a lot of that had to do with Joe Dumars and giving up bad contracts to Josh Smith and Ish Smith and the other Smiths and everything, like Joe Dumars. But at least he did come in and he won a championship. All this, he was collecting them all. Joe Dumars did come in and win a championship. So like, say what you want about those dark days, and again, say what you want about like how much he had to do with that championship, because I believe it was right when he first kind of took over. He still won a championship. Like, off the top of your head, can you think of anyone else who has tarnished their own legacy more by just their own doing?
My mind goes to Alan Trammell, and not because I mean it was
Wow.
just the that's nothing against Trammell. Like, I mean, he was obviously a fantastic player. I drafted him in my Mount Rushmore of Tigers draft picks. Like, I love Trammell, but like I just feel like as a manager, like he just led a lot of our 114 loss seasons. Like he was the manager for those. So like that's not great. And after he left, like, you got Leland coming in, and we're World Series bound after not too long after Leland shows up. So I don't know. That's where my mind goes. But like no one talks about Alan Trammell, and like I don't have his record in front of me, but like I just remember like growing up, Alan Trammell, he was our manager, and we sucked every single year. So I don't know. Comes to mind again.
That's
love
a great
Trammell,
point.
like, but who knows?
That's a great point. I mean, now that Trammell has stayed within the system, we talked about him last week. If you want to hear more about our Alan Trammell praise and everything like that, you can go back to last week's episode. Now that he still is within the system, he is working with the minor leagues. Like we said last week, he had a lot to do with Kevin McGonigal and the development there. Maybe he sort of bought back a little bit of the fandom. I just don't. Steve Yzerman doesn't strike me as a guy that would be willing to do that kind of stuff and put in that kind of work, because like we said, he just seems like an asshole. And whether it's true or not, you have to, like, where there's smoke, there's fire, most certainly. So like whether he's not, even if he's not like the biggest asshole that the media is making him out to be, and that's why we're not getting all these free agencies, there has to be some sort of reasoning behind that. And it's interesting. I don't know where we go from here. Do you think, so two things. One, I think, I don't know why. We don't really know why this happened. It was somewhat abruptly. Like you said, the writing was kind of on the wall, but at the same time, it was a little bit abruptly. So it could have kind of been two things. It could have been Chris Ilitch saying, like all the fans are saying, that we're not getting it done. We realize we're hearing all these rumors about, you being difficult on free agents. That's why we're not getting anyone. And time's up. The drought, everything, time's up for Steve Yzerman. You're moving on. You're not being fired, but moving on. It also could be the situation that, like, with Larkin requesting this trade, the situation could be that Yzerman went to Chris Ilitch and was like, hey, Larkin's kind of putting us in a corner here. We can only trade him to these teams. Anything we can get him back from Larkin is going to be a lot of future assets, meaning this drought's going to go on a little bit longer. And it very well could have been Chris Ilitch saying, like, no, that's not acceptable. The fans are about to riot on us. We need to get pieces back now, not future assets. And Yzerman's like, well, I can't do that. No one is willing to play ball with us. And so Chris is like, well, then I'll find someone else to do it. We'll never know what the reasoning behind it, whether it's option A or option B. Regardless, it seems like on the surface, quote unquote, Larkin won this standoff between Yzerman and Larkin. If you're Larkin, are you now much more willing to stay in Detroit? If we're the Detroit Red Wing fans, are we much more willing to have Larkin stay? Or is that relationship with Larkin already sour? Like, how do we move on from here?
I've always been a Larkin guy, like, even though we have never gotten it done since he's been on the team, basically. I don't really attribute all that to Larkin. So I personally want him to stay as a Larkin stan. But I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. Like, did Larkin win? I mean, like, he wanted to leave, and now it seems like he's probably going to stay because our GM is leaving. So, like, is that even what he wanted? I really don't know, man. Because, like, even if we bring in, obviously we're going to bring in another GM. I don't know who, but, like, I mean, is it even going to get any better? I have no idea. It's like, you can always say, oh, the grass is always greener. Who the hell knows? So, like, did Larkin win? I'm still in the camp that, like, I think we all lost, like, including like, the players, at least right now. Like, we're kind of in limbo. We're going into another season. No GM yet. Like,
after the draft, it was like a week after the draft.
Yeah, a week after the draft. I think we're a dumpster fire, and everyone loses. If there's a dumpster fire, fans are losing, players are losing, like, everyone's losing. So I want to stop losing. I just need to do it,
especially in March. Like, we can't do another losing March. I think personally, I'm with you. Like, I'd be fine if Larkin stays. Like, I don't hold any. I mean, like, everyone knew the relationship was fractured between him and Yzerman. We all know what Larkin can be. I think, if anything, this has opened a lot more people's eyes that, like, yeah, the rest of the league doesn't necessarily view Larkin as we do. Everyone else kind of views him as a 2C, like a second center, which is, I think, very accurate. And so I think, like, I'm okay if we're going to put him in position to properly play that second center. I'm okay with that. So, like, I'm okay with him coming back. I don't have any ill will. As long as, like, the relationship between him and the other players, like, he wasn't like, yeah, fucking see ya, boys. Like, I'm okay with him coming back.
Right.
But I think he like, maybe in quote unquote, like, half won. Like, I think he's half happy because he never liked Yzerman. But then, like, just because another guy comes in doesn't mean we're out of this limbo. So I think it's kind of like a all right, step 1 was done. We got rid of Yzerman in Larkin's eyes. We got rid of Yzerman. Step 2, someone's got to come in. We got to start making these moves because the clock is still ticking. And whether Yzerman's in charge, someone else is in charge, what have you. So I think he's like half happy, and we'll see now where we go. It was weird timing. Like I said, a week after the draft, you saw Yzerman make move, traded, goalies away, Sebastian Costa away to get back in the first round and take his guy. Who knows if that was like more of a front office thing and not just an Yzerman thing, in which case, like, it doesn't really matter if he was in the lead for that. But a lot to be figured out. I don't know. Oh, do we still tear things down? Does this bring Patty Kane back? Do we need to, if we do tear it down, does that just mean Larkin? Does that mean DeBrincat too? And we just kind of go all in on Seider and Lucas Raymond? It's weird, but I'm happy about it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm happy about this. At least we're not just meddling in the middle here. We're at least doing something, and that gives me at least a little bit of hope that I didn't have before.
We will see. Obviously, puck drops in a couple months from now, 2-3 months. So there's still plenty of time. Things are going to shake up. Obviously, the Wings are going to hire someone as their new general manager. It is to be seen if anything is going to change. But for me, it's got to be playoffs or bust. Like, I can't go in another rebuild. And I know, like, the right move might be to go into a semi rebuild and basically trade everyone who's 29 years or older because they won't be around in like 2 years when you're ready to win. But like, for me, like, I've just spent enough of my lifetime like missing the playoffs, like being shit. Like, I need something, man. More to come on the Wings.
Yeah, like I said to start the segment, it was a weird timing in which, like, we had things planned for today, but then we realized, like, oh, this happened after our last recording, but it was so long ago, just directly after the recording, that we didn't cover it. So we felt like we need to at least address it. Kyle and I don't necessarily dive wholeheartedly into hockey talk here, just because we're Lions First podcast. So, feel free, call into the voice line, give us your thoughts on the Yzerman firing, who you want us to bring in. We probably have no idea who we're going to bring in. But give us your thoughts. If you want to talk more hockey, talk more puck, make sure you guys call in, interact on social media. But we're going to go to an early break here, because when we come back, we're going to head into NFL, the Lions position group rankings. The ESPN released their player rankings in each position group, so we're going to play off a little bit of that, have some fun, do a little bit of rankings just after this break. All right, we are back. So as I mentioned to start the episode out, we are so close to football. I'm officially in that attitude in which, like, I need football. I need Hard Knocks here to be here. I'm on Netflix watching the new quarterback season. Jaden Daniels, Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield. I love Baker Mayfield in that quarter. If you haven't watched quarterbacks, he's so good in it. He just, like, we've always said this, you and I both. If we didn't have Jared Goff and like the revival of Goff's career, like, Baker would fit here so well. I just love Baker. But I'm watching any sort of football shows, football articles, anything I can get football wise, I'm eating it up. ESPN just released their position or individual player rankings within each position group. So over the last, I think, like 10 days, they've released their different, for running backs, their player rankings, every different position group, the offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, exterior offensive lineman, defensive lineman, receivers. They've released all their player rankings there. So we thought we'd play on that a little bit. And Kyle and I are just going to go through and rank the Detroit Lion position groups 1 through 8. We're actually going to probably go backwards. We're going to start with our 8th, meaning probably our weakest position group, work all the way up to what we consider our strongest position group. We'll throw in real quick how we feel they kind of match up against the rest of the league, if any of our guys fall into ESPN's player rankings there. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with this, just talk a little bit of football talk while we can, as we try and get through these last few weeks of no football. But let's start it out, Kyle. So actually, let me go through this. Let's talk about the total groups that we're going to be ranking here. So obviously, the groups that we have the running back room, the quarterback room, the wide receiver room, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, secondary, and then the special teams. Got to include those guys. Got to include our boy Jake Bates. So we're going to rank all those guys. Let's start with our 8th, as in our worst position group that the Detroit Lions have. Kyle, who are you going to start us off with? We'll kind of go back and forth, see if we align on any of these. Start us off. Who's the worst position group that the Detroit Lions have?
I'm kind of, honestly, like, I think that 8 is the hardest one for me because, well, firstly, I mean, this team is very good top to bottom. I mean, say what you want about, like, just the underperforming last season, everything that happened, but, like, there was a ton of talent and, hopefully a good draft class this year that can, fill any holes that we might have had. I'm not just basing this off of the ESPN rankings, but it's tough. I love Jake Bates and I love Jack Fox. I just feel like in general, like special teams is probably 8 for me, and I do disagree with ESPN. I think that I would say both Jake Bates and Jack Fox are easily top 10, and Jack Fox I feel like is top 5 in punters. It's not even close. I don't think either of them cracked the top 10 for ESPN's rankings, but I mean, regardless, like they're going to be a close 8 for me, but it's no shade. I mean, it's a solid unit between Bates and Fox. I think we're probably light on kick returner now, punt returner. I think that's probably lowering them down to 8 for me as well. But again, love Bates and I love Jack Fox.
Yeah, I'm gonna just off the from the jump here, we're gonna disagree just because Jack Fox is I mean, he is one of the best punters, if not the best punter in the league. It's something that as Michigan State fans we've grown to love. Just secretly, quietly being one of your best position players is your punter, which can flip the field. It's sad when that is the case because you got no one else to watch except for your punter. But it actually does it does affect the game a lot in being able to flip the field and pin their opponent offensive down. Jake Bates, I think the jury is out a little bit. He had a really, really good 2 years ago. Obviously, he came on the scene. Every single game you heard about how he was laying bricks a week before, and then he was best kicker in the league. I think he had a little bit more of an average season last year. I don't have his numbers in front of me, how much he missed, but I think he came down to earth a little bit. Still really, really good. Someone that I still feel comfortable moving forward with. But I agree with you that the return game definitely took a hit. Khalif Raymond at one point 2 years ago was one of the best return men in the league. Last year, he really had a down year. Obviously, then he unfollowed, I think he followed Ben Johnson to the Bears, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So our return game definitely took a hit, went from being very, very good to very, very bad. But all that being said, I don't have them as my 8. I'll get to them here in a second. I got to go secondary. The secondary, I'm going to say, and I think I'm sure where you were going back and forth with whether it was going to be the special teams or secondary. Secondary is going to be my worst ranked position group for the Detroit Lions, just because even full healthy, I would say we are top half of the league. A healthy Brian Branch, a healthy Kirby Joseph, a healthy Terrion Arnold. We'll get into him in here in a second. We're a good secondary group. You obviously lost a few guys last year. You brought in a few guys this year that I think were sneaky good picks. Rocky Sin is sneaky, a really reliable guy, but there's so many question marks. So you have obviously Terrion Arnold in literal prison. I think his career, at least in Detroit, is over. His career in the NFL likely over. Even if he gets another chance, I don't know if he'll be able to take it. We've been big TA defenders. You look at his number, he's an obvious guy you can pick on. But if you look at his numbers, he actually was pretty good last year. Brian Branch is coming back from a major injury. It's a big question mark. It doesn't sound like he's going to be able to start the season, but it sounds like when he does come back, he is on track to come back towards the beginning of the season. But that's a major injury to come back from. So there's so much changing in direction in the secondary, and Kirby Joseph is a guy that I don't think anyone really thinks he's ever going to play again. There's a big question mark on not whether he's going to come back and be 100, whether he's going to be able to play again. And even so, his style of play is just ball hawk. I don't necessarily think he was a great coverage safety. I think he was just a real big ball hawk. The Lions have no corners in the top 10 according to ESPN in their position rankings. They do have the 2 safeties. Brian Branch is listed technically as number 4 safety in the league, and then Kirby Joseph is technically also number 9. I think that's being very optimistic that he comes back, but secondary's got to be my worst position for the Lions at number 8.
So it's interesting. I was going to ask before we started, is this more on paper or actually going into this season? And it sounds like you answered it for me, which is the correct way to look at it. We have to be, pragmatic here. Going into this season, yes, if everyone was healthy, I think that this is easily I would bump up our secondary. We have dudes, like you said, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, those are dudes. But then you look at the injuries. Yes, Brian Branch, he's incredible, just coming off a major lower body injury. What was ACL or Achilles? I can't quite. Yeah. So he's just not going to play at least the first half of the season, right? Or at least that's projected. The games that he's going to miss. So yes, immediately your secondary takes a huge hit. And then, like you mentioned, Kirby Joseph. Is he? Are his knees even there? He's been having surgeries and there's a bunch of shit going on. No one really knows. Dan Campbell and everyone kind of just glances over the fact that, yeah, Kirby Joseph might never walk again, seemingly. Like, it's crazy, man. So who knows? He could be good to go. He could never play again. He could probably somewhere in between, but still, it's like the injury concern is so real for Kirby Joseph. And then you factor in Terrion Arnold. You factor in DJ Reed, who, yeah, you spent big money on him and signed him to a 3-year deal, and he was just getting cooked left and right, man. Like, he was a chef. Just it was insane. And so I definitely have them as my number 7 unit.
And I think it's a great point because, like, on paper, all these guys are healthy, even without TA. Just a healthy Brian, a healthy Kirby, like that definitely moves them up, maybe even to like 6 for me. Because I mean, over the past 2 seasons, the Lions had a defensive EPA of plus 28 when Kirby Joseph was the nearest defender per NFL Next Gen Stats. It's the highest in the NFL. So like when they're fully healthy, we know what Brian Branch is. He's an absolute dog, a do it all kind of guy. So like when he's healthy, we know what they can be. They probably move up to like 6 in my position rankings, but they have to be 8. You said they're number 7 for you. So we're just flipped on that because I'm going to put special teams at 7. Not necessarily, and I already kind of covered special teams just because and how they this past season was just a little bit down year for them. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think they're that bad. I'm just looking at our other positions in the groups that we have. I just can't put anyone. I can't swap them with anyone else. Just I'm looking at the groups and I can't justify putting any other group at 7 for me. So that's the only reason why. Like maybe I feel like they'd be talent wise higher than 7th, but I can't swap anyone from.
Yep, 100%. So 6, it's tough, man. I keep on going back and forth here. I'm gonna say it, and this might be super controversial. I'm putting defensive line at 6, dude. It's a one-man show, and it has been for so long. I mean, we all know that Aiden Hutchinson is such a beast. Like, for me, probably top 2 defensive end in the league. I think ESPN might have had him at, like, 4. Still very fair. Coming off that injury, he just had a really solid season. I think 14.5 sacks. It's just that the depth just isn't there for me. Like, there's still you have even look at the interior defensive line. Like, Aleem McNeil, if he's coming back, if he's fully healthy, that's still a big question mark. If like he can come back and be the production of Aleem McNeil of like 2 years ago, pre-injury. And then Tyleik Williams, your first round pick from last year, who like didn't do a ton last year, and I keep on sitting watching games thinking like you just need more production out of your first round pick. Like, so again, could have a huge upswing in year 2 for Tyleik Williams, but it just seems like overall the depth just isn't there. You've always needed another pass rusher, and it's no shade to Aiden, obviously, but like just because of the depth, that they're 6 for me.
Yeah, we're in lockstep here. They're going to be 6 for me too, and similar to the secondary group, it just seems like this front office just doesn't value these 2 position groups as a lot of fans do, because it's nothing new. We're blue in the face talking about how, like you said, it's been a one-man wrecking crew for years now. Same with the secondary. Like, you had 2 great safeties, but you knew, whether, like I said, we even Terrion Arnold defenders, but like you knew A, he was either alone on the outside, or B, you didn't like him in the first. Like you weren't a defender, so like either you didn't like him or he was alone, and they just continuously ignore that. The defensive line is exactly the same, so they're going to be 6 for me. ESPN has Aiden Hutchinson as a 5th ranked edge player last year. He was 2nd in pressures with 63, 3rd in quarterback hits with 35, tied for 2nd in forced fumbles with 4, 4th in sacks with 14.5. So he had 950 snaps which was 1st among defensive linemen last year. So like obviously Aiden's doing it all. And you mentioned Tyleik Williams. I think because they were able to move on from like Reader and a few other guys up front, they're really banking on Tyleik Williams making that next step, and Aleem McNeil getting back to his dominant ways of 2 years ago. Regardless, even if they do, like that's still probably maybe. You could convince me that this position group, if those 2 guys, Aleem comes back and is a wrecking ball again like 2 years ago, and Tyleik takes the next step, maybe you can convince me that they should be one spot higher. But you're still a super large question mark surrounding Derek Moore out of Michigan. Like that was quote unquote our solution at the edge position. And so, like, I agree. The defensive line has to be 6 because there's just no one else other than Aiden, unless maybe, I guess, another kind of question mark X factor could be Ahmed Hassanin, the I think 6th round draft pick from last year, who was making waves out of training camp last year. Unfortunately, went down with a ACL, I believe, during training camp. But before he went down, people were singing his praises, and he was going to play a big role. So maybe between him, Derek Moore, anyone else we were able to bring in, they're able to patch some things together alongside Aiden Hutchinson. But yeah, I think so far you have to have the defensive line at 6th overall position group wise.
And I'm glad you brought up Derek Moore too. Like, so we have addressed defensive line or defensive end in the 2026 draft. We were shouting from the rooftops, did it with the second round. And honestly, I'm glad at how it played out. I think first round, you absolutely needed to take that tackle. Blake Miller, obviously, come on down. So yeah, second round, Derek Moore. I think the fit is good. I think a lot of people are just projecting him to be, he's going to be the guy alongside Aiden. I think more likely than not, he's going to be more of a rotational piece, at least in his rookie season. But who knows? He could take another massive step forward and, be a top 15 guy in the league, top 20 guy in the league, and he's your guy starting alongside Aiden. So yeah, you never know. I like that they did take a swing, get Derek Moore there. Good fit. But yeah, number 6.
I think real quick before the last thing I'll say, it definitely hurts just seeing like our two of our largest rivals at the moment in the Packers and the Rams both go out and do what we've been begging the team to do, and just like put your fucking nuts on the table and take a swing and go out and get that wrecker next to Aiden Hutchinson with, the Rams going out and get Myles Garrett. Obviously, they had to give up Jared Verse, which is, we don't really have technically a Jared Verse to give up right now, but going out and get Myles Garrett. The Packers obviously going out and getting Michael Parsons. So like, just seeing that contrast to what we're doing just makes the 6th ranking for the defensive line hurt that much more.
100%. I'm glad you brought that up. It's not just the draft. It's free agency. You go and make trades. It's just things that we haven't done. So yeah. Until we see further, they're still decently down on our list. But now we're getting into fun because, like we said, this Lions team is pretty damn good, and we have a ton of good position groups. Do you wanna rip it with number 5? I think we might be in lockstep. I hope we're not. I hope we disagree on some things, but
I think we're gonna be in lockstep at least maybe for one more, and then it could be a little bit different because I could go a number of different ways. I think I'm gonna, man, this is really tough. This is when it gets really tough because I think even like the fans and listeners would agree with our, maybe like you and I did, they would swap special teams and secondary or whatever. But I think most people are gonna be on board with that. It could go a lot of different ways. I think I'm gonna catch some slack from this, and I don't think you're gonna. I'm gonna put at 5. I'm gonna put our QB room. I think.
Wow.
I think. I like Jared Goff. I don't like the chance that we do, the Jared Goff chance. I'm on record saying that. I still hear it to this day. I don't like
Jared Goff chants are elite. You're a hater.
But I just think like Jared's his prime revival was the 2 years ago when we were 15-2. Like he was I mean, MVP caliber in my opinion. Like I'm sure he got some votes. Like he deserves some votes. But since then, I feel like we've found that like the offense needs to be running perfectly around him, in a sense that like it definitely showed last year, and it's shown its ugly head a few times. Looking back to the Houston game, 2 years ago, he had 5 interceptions, and we still were able to pull it out because we're a good team around him. But like he definitely, if the conditions aren't perfect for him, he worries me, and I think maybe I'm gonna catch some slack on this for online, but also like you look at his age, he's definitely getting older. He's not mobile whatsoever. I think. I'm going to put a QB room at 5th overall position group.
I have him higher. I'm just going to defend my boy just for a little bit. Like, yeah, you look at the eye test, and there were some games that Jared struggled, but just body of work overall, just another 4,500-yard season. Like, it just stellar, man. 34 picks, 8 interceptions. Like, the man is still just efficient as ever. I think his completion percentage dropped off just a little bit from 2 years ago. You mentioned MVP caliber season 2 years ago. I think he finished like 5th in MVP voting. So yeah, that was special. You mentioned the age. I think QBs, they age like wine, and especially a guy who's not mobile to begin with. Like he's just going to be able to sling it for a number of years to come. So for that reason, I don't have him slotted next. My 5 is, it's going to the linebacker room, and really similar to our defensive line room, it just comes down to depth. We have the star, for sure, Jack Campbell. Love him to death. Just got paid, rightfully so. Very well deserved. He's awesome, man. I think ESPN had him as the 5th best linebacker in the league. PFF has him top 10 as well, I think 8. So, yeah, he is the leader of this team, at least from a defensive standpoint. 166 tackles in 2025. he's just a workhorse, man. He's got that motor that you just need in your defense, especially for a guy with the green dot on the helmet. He's spectacular, but then, you lose a guy like Alex Anzalone. I just feel like the depth in the linebacker room is too thin for me to have it ranked any higher, especially compared to some really, really stellar position groups that we're going to get to and break down right now. But yeah, I have them at 5.
Yeah, a hand up. I'm shooting from the hip a little. I was shooting from the hip a little bit there. You are probably right in this. I wasn't thinking about the linebacker group. I was trying to compare it to the offensive line and the running backs, receivers, stuff like that. You're probably right in that it deserves to be linebacker room, and then we'll go from there. And so I hand up there. But just looking at my QB list, Goff, you mentioned all Goff's numbers. I think our system is definitely set up to support a gunslinger in kind of pads numbers a little bit. And then you could probably point to all of his downsides last year that I had pointed out, to the terrible offensive line play. Obviously, the pocket pressure for Goff was terrible. He had a career high 38 sacks. I mentioned he's not very mobile, so a little bit of that is on him. But he did have, over the last 2 years, 9,193 yards, 71 touchdowns. Only 4 quarterbacks have more 4,500 passing yard seasons than Goff, or than Goff's 5, excuse me. So, I hand up, you're probably right on this. But for Jack Campbell, it's hard because I think Jack Campbell is probably better, like you said, top-heavy. Linebackers are more top-heavy than our QB room. But I think Derek Barnes is really solid. Losing Anzalone, a listener of the show, definitely hurts. Again, going back to Derek Moore, is Derek Moore going to help out in the linebacker core in any way? It really depends. Is Rodrigo anything really? We caught some glimpses of him his rookie year, saw a little bit from him, then he went down with his injury. Can he do anything? But Campbell's been so good. It's so top heavy. That top of the linebacker room is so good. He had 176 tackles last year, which is the most for a Lions player since Chris Spielman in 1994. 40% run stop win rate, was 5th among linebackers. It was a position that when we took him in the draft, everyone kind of laughed. And now here he is on a 4-year, $81 million deal that he just extended. So I agree with you. It's probably linebacker, probably should be there, and then QB. But Jack Campbell, in my opinion, is a better linebacker than Jared Goff is a quarterback, if that makes sense. In their respective positions, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah, Jack Campbell top 5, Jared probably closer to that 8, 9, 10 spot. So yeah,
which is there. Exactly on. ESPN has Jack Campbell as a 5th overall linebacker and Jared Goff at the 9th overall quarterback. So I guess maybe I wasn't that far off. It just depends on how you value the positions there, and both definitely are. Like we just mentioned, top 10 in the league. So nothing too bad there.
So do we have it flipped? Are you going linebacker next? Because I'm going quarterback next. With I guess that would be the 4 slot.
Yep, exactly. So 4. So same thing, 4, 5. We have linebacker and quarterbacks. So then that leads us to our final 3: running back room, offensive line, and wide receiver room.
This is the tough one. This is
really.
This
I was
is
just
tough.
gonna say, I think this is chalk. I think this is easy.
Oh, it's not for me at least. So I don't know where you're going. I guess maybe I should go first then.
Yeah. All right, you go first. Go for third. Who's our third? Now we can look at it the other way. Who's our third best position group for the Lions?
I don't know. Okay, I had something written down. I think I'm going against it.
That's what I just did with quarterbacks. So we're shooting from the hip here.
Fuck, just because there just is that uncertainty from last season's struggles. I am gonna go 3 with offensive line, and I actually had them higher. It's just that you're starting a rookie at right tackle. Most likely. We don't know yet, but Blake Miller's gonna win the job, right? Penne is moving over to left, which played nothing but left tackle for probably all of his career, right? Until he got to the bigs, until he got to the NFL. So that should be fine, but still a bit of an uncertainty. He signed center Cade Mays, certainly a plus from where you had at center Graham Glasgow, just a corpse of himself later on in his career. Love Graham, but he fell off late. So you're upgraded there. Still, question marks. Right guard, left guard, Ratledge. Dude, I literally say his name wrong every single time, to the point where I don't know if it's Tate Rutledge or Tate Ratledge. So I'm just
He's a rat.
I'm just gonna say both. Ratledge, he should take another step forward. I think who's left? Mahogany. It's there. Regardless, it should be a very good unit. It should be back to being a easily top 10 unit in this league. Hopefully top 5. But they were probably one of the best units in the league 2 years ago, and then just a huge step back. Obviously, a ton of that went into it. Taylor Decker's injuries. Your center just up and retired after the draft. So like there was a ton of turmoil, and they should take another step forward. But for me, like they are just our third best unit.
I think that's totally fair, and especially just because, and it's so different because like 2 years ago, we would probably be having this argument about them being the number one unit, for the Detroit Lions, and then last year, just strictly if we had the same team rolling out from last year, we would definitely be arguing like 6th or 7th overall unit. And so I think it's definitely fair to put them here at 3, because there's a lot of question marks. But I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to go with our receiver room being 3, and that's just because the lack of depth, similar to the linebacker room for you, the lack of depth there. I want to stick on the because I'm assuming, we'll get to this in a second, that we're inverse probably. We're flipped here. You probably have receiver room at 2. And
I do.
Yeah. So we can go through kind of both of them here. For the offensive line, like you mentioned, Panay jumping back to left guard, back to left tackle. That's what he did all in college. He elite talent. Like I have no questions that he's going to be able to take that over. At the same time, he did have a down year as our entire offensive line did last year. I think it was kind of like a sinking ship, took everyone down a little bit, and it's real difficult. Offensive line is one of those groups that like when one person isn't carrying their weight, the entire offensive line feels it, and all the stats go down. The whole entire team feels it. So like it definitely affected him. Last year he had an 89.6% pass block win rate, which actually was outside the top 40 offensive tackles in the entire NFL last year. It was his lowest since his rookie year in 2021. So like he definitely is an elite talent, elite leader. I have no qualms and no hesitancy that he's going to be able to take over left tackle, but like he definitely had a down year last year. And then I think Tate Ratledge is definitely going to take a next step next year. I think I have no real worries for him. We talked about Blake Miller ad nauseum at the draft. Like he was the perfect pick for him. I think he's going to step in. He's not going to be fantastic, but I think he's definitely going to hold his own. And, I think outside of those, you can kind of piece together the last few guys. Cade Mays was a little bit of a bargain deal there. Obviously, we didn't go with the top center and Tyler Linderbaum. But as we mentioned, when we signed Cade Mays, 1 year of Tyler Linderbaum's deal was the same amount of money that Cade's entire 4-year contract was for. So it was kind of like wasn't the best guy out there, but didn't break the bank for him. So like, I think that alone, I think that moves them. I'm more optimistic. My receiver room, like I said, the lack of depth. You look at the kind of that 3-4 receiver, it's kind of bounced around from a few different guys over the last few years, which is fine. You had Josh Reynolds, who obviously had the drop in the playoffs and really screwed us. You had Tim Patrick, who kind of stepped up a few different times. You and I are Timmy P lovers, but then they obviously went out and traded up to get Isaac Tesla last year, so they moved on from Tim Patrick. Tesla's going to have a much larger role in this offense moving forward. He had like 16 catches last year, and 7 of them were for touchdowns. So like both, I don't think he's going to put up that many touchdowns, but he's going to get a lot more catches. So like I think that's okay. But you look at Waymo, I think we just need a little more consistency from Waymo. I think every now and again he had the opportunity to change a game, but there was definitely stretches when I was like, damn, is Jamison even on the field? And like I always am just kind of like, oh, he must be like fear. He's just, receivers are divas. And I just, unfortunately to him and unfairly to him, I kind of just feel like he just gets frustrated on the field. And while he's never really shown that, I kind of feel it. And then talking about our star boy, Amon-Ra St. Brown for a time last year led the league in drops. And that's like an issue that he never had to deal with his entire career. So I think just the depth, the lack of depth, I should say, the Amon-Ra St. Brown strange issues that he was having with drops last year, and the Jameson Williams tendency to either, boom or bust. I think as your number 2 receiver, you need a little bit more consistency than boom or bust, is why I put them at 3 and offensive line at 2.
I'm with you. I just feel like the star power, and I mean, we got star power obviously on the offensive line as well. Just like there's a little bit more for me in the receiver room, which is why I have them at 2. You mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown, can't say enough good things, even though, yeah, he did have the case of the drops a little bit. Mm-hmm. That was a little weird. I feel like just the entire team just was playing like shit collectively, and I don't know. I think it just soaks into everything, but still, ARSB. 117 catches, 4th straight season with over 100 catches, 1,400 yards, 11 tutties. The biggest thing for me, he was just a walking first down. And he has been in his entire career, but 70 of those 117 catches were for first downs last year. He's just... You need a big play. I mean, last couple seasons, maybe it was more like Sam Laporta just, catching that big pass for third down, on third down. For last year, it was Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was walking first down. It was incredible. JMO, I agree. His entire career, you just needed a little bit more out of him, and it's there. The talent is insane. It's staying on the field has been a problem in his career, but great season for that standpoint. 1,100 yards. They're a fantastic duo, but I do agree, just it's thin behind that. I mean, Isaac Tesla, I'm looking at his stats, 27 targets last year. Like, granted, it's tough, rookie wide receiver, especially you're going in and you're immediately wide receiver 3 behind just like 2 really, really awesome players. But the 27 targets was a head scratcher for me. Like, it seems like they just were never, ever, ever throwing his way. And when they did, he scored touchdowns. So, like, yeah, I think there's going to be a big bounce for Isaac Tesla. And then, like, we talk about the wide receiver room. I mean, yes, pass catchers, I know we're not talking about tight ends, but I do just want to give some shout out to Sam Laporta like that. Like, I think he's going to have a bounce back. A lot of it's on health, and he does so much more for this team besides just catch passes. Like, he's an incredible blocker as well. But, like, you totally felt his absence last year. Like, it was a whole shit sandwich last year for so many different reasons. Play calling, injuries, like there was just one thing after another. And that's what just makes me so much more pumped for this season in general, man, is that the boys are coming back, hopefully healthier, easier schedule, like sky's the limit. But yeah, still a stellar receiving room. No matter how you want to slice it, number 3, number 2, it's still, I think, one of the better receiving rooms in the entire NFL. And it's a huge strength for us.
For what it's worth, ESPN has 0 Detroit Lion guards on their top 10, or in their honorable mentions, which makes sense. We talked about it. Rookies, it makes sense. For tackles, they have Penei Sewell as the number 1 offensive tackle in the NFL. Again, makes sense. As it relates to receivers, they had Amon-Ra St. Brown as the 5th overall receiver, and then Jameson Williams coming in as an honorable mention. So just based on that, it kind of balances out, like a 1 overall, but no one else, and then a 5 and an honorable mention kind of balances out. I'm glad you brought up Sam Laporta, because I'm just going through this and I realized, like, we could have just made the tight end room their own position group. We could have technically thrown them in with the offensive line because of the blocking. Could have thrown them in with the receivers. I think probably either their own group or with receivers would make most sense. But Sam Laporta, as it relates to tight ends, was ranked as the 4th overall tight end in the NFL. Oh, yeah. Obviously, last year with his injuries, he had a career low 40 catches, 489 yards, and just 3 touchdowns. But he does a lot in the blocking game. Before we get to our number 1, because obviously that's our 2 and 3, if we were to throw the tight end group into this, just in difficult looking back, where do you think you'd put the tight end group, being a little bit top heavy with Sam Laporta?
Yeah, again, it's just the same. It's the same message that I'm saying, but like Sam Laporta, obviously incredible, dealing with injuries last season, but like, besides Laporta, we saw it when he went down. Like, I mean, we're literally signing guys off the street and off the practice squad and like throwing them in. Like, we had nobody as a backup tight end. So like, because of that, I can't put them as high. I mean, as a group, yes, obviously Sam Laporta, like and this is a position too where like typically you're gonna have 1, maybe 2 tight ends out at a time, right? But it's top heavy for a reason. You really only need 1 stud, but like when that stud goes down, you kind of do need that depth. So for me, I don't know. I'd probably maybe put him somewhere near where I had like, quarterbacks, linebackers, somewhere in that like 5'6", 4, 5, 6. But like, yeah, can't be any higher, man, because there's just no depth.
Can't be any higher. I'm going back and forth between 5th and 6th. I'm thinking like comparatively to the QBs, the linebackers, very similar linebackers. I mean, you mentioned it. When Laporta's great, but when he went down, we were in trouble, big time trouble, and we lost James Zylstra this year, I believe. But when he was on the field, he averaged 2.25 yards after first contact per reception, which was leading the top 10 group in tight ends. His 6.9 yards after the catch per reception topped all the tight ends. So I mean, when he was on the field, he was fantastic. But just big time if. I know just today, actually, he was reported to be a full-time go to start the preseason workouts. So he will start the year with absolutely no limitations, which is going to be huge. But okay, so it just happens to be that you and I have, and I think this makes sense. You and I have the number 1 position group for the Detroit Lions. Makes sense. I think everyone, all the listeners, everyone really in the NFL, anyone who knows the Lions would agree. The number 1 position group for the Detroit Lions, the running back room. To no one's surprise, Jahmyr Gibbs, formerly David Montgomery, but now Isaiah Pacheco. Makes sense, right? Like, that was a no-brainer, easiest pick in the draft, right?
For sure. I mean, it's just, and really, it's because of Gibbs. No surprise there. Like, I've been on record not a Pacheco fan. I think you're probably in the same boat. Like, just eye tests, advanced stats, like nothing is screaming like, oh, I want this guy to be my RB2. But like, this is Gibbs in his now 4th season. Like, he's just he's going to be insane, man. I mean, they're going to feed him. He's now the bell cow. Last year, he pretty much was too. I mean, he poached so many touches from Montgomery last year. Big reason why the Lions, moved on from Demo after last season. Demo still had a lot left in the tank. He wanted to be the guy. Off in Houston now. Good for him. But yeah, dude, Gibbs, this is Gibbs' time. ESPN, I think, has him right behind Bijan. For me, it's Gibbs in front of Bijan. It always has been, always will be. Call me Homer. I don't give a shit. I just think that Gibbs is the better back. They're both fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but when you have the best back in the league, your running back position group is going to be the best on your team. That's the fact of the matter. He's insane. Last year, 1,223 rushing yards, 13 rushing touchdowns, 5 yards per carry, 17 grabs, almost 1,900 scrimmage yards. He's insane, man. 87 forced tackles. Like, he's a human joystick. He's, they called Barry that. I mean, I'm not going to say he's Barry Sanders, but like, he just has so much talent. He can do it all, man. Absolutely love Jahmyr Gibbs. Holy shit.
I mean, 18 touchdowns last year was the second most in Lions history, only to himself from 2024 when he had 20, breaking Barry Sanders. He had 39 rushing touchdowns the last 3 years while splitting time between David Montgomery, who's an RB1 for a lot of teams. Obviously, he's an RB1 now. I mean, he's averaged 225 carries per season since 2023. You mentioned being the bell back. He's gonna push on 300 carries, and it's gonna be and he's gonna. I mean, so as long as his health can keep him there, and we know he can perform. So as long as the health is there, yeah, he's number one. I'm kind of surprised to see ESPN has him at number 2 behind Bijan. I know they're always going to be tied together because they're always kind of 1-2. Right now, they're kind of playing a game of chicken to see who's going to sign the contract first in order to, who's going to then immediately break that contract and break the record. There's rumors going around right now that Jahmyr Gibbs could sit out and hold out for training camp and stuff. I don't know if I believe it. I think it's kind of like he could. I also could hold out from training camp and not go too. I'm not going to go because I wasn't invited, but like I could hold out. So I think it's like I don't necessarily believe it, but if you didn't think Jahmyr Gibbs was in the offensive line, the running back group wasn't the best in for the Lions, I mean, then you weren't probably playing the game. I have grown to, I'm definitely talking myself into Pacheco a little bit just because I need something. I need to feel something when it comes to this team. I need to feel something in case Jahmyr Gibbs goes down. But I mean, again, you could argue just as top heavy, depending on how you see Pacheco as like Sam Laporta in the tight end groups or, the linebacker group. But Jahmyr Gibbs is far and away the best in his position. Obviously, like we said, coming in at number 2 in front of Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, JT, Derrick Henry, everyone like that. So shout out to Jahmyr Gibbs, best running back in the NFL. Don't at me. Better than Bijan easily.
Hell yeah. And again, like, just because I'm on record saying I don't like Isaiah Pacheco, I obviously still want him to do good. Like, he's running back 2 on my favorite team of all time. Like, I certainly want him to succeed. I think he wasn't the guy. He wasn't the move. But either way, no matter how you slice it, Jahmyr Gibbs' legacy season, he's going to take us to the promised land. He's going to take us to feats we haven't seen before. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this season. I'm feeling football. I'm so fucking ready to go.
Again, as we were talking about the Steve Yzerman stuff and the hockey stuff, call into the voicemail. Give us your thoughts. What do you think is the best position group? Obviously, like I said, I'm assuming everyone's going to say the running back room is the best position group for the Lions. But as we kind of got to like 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and then the 7 and 8, like there's a lot of flip flopping that can happen. So call into the voicemail. Give us your thoughts and opinions on what you think the Detroit Lions best position group is. What's the worst? What's going to be better this upcoming year than previous years? Make sure you guys call in and continue that conversation. Follow us on social media as we do that. Let's wrap up the show with some Grit of the Week. Guys, Grit of the Week is brought to you by our new friends at Old Glory. Old Glory offers over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture. For pop culture fans, featuring officially licensed merch from iconic bands and top sports teams, including your Detroit Lions. Discover your perfect fan gear and save with our exclusive discount, GRIT, that's GRIT, at oldglory.com. Our listeners can get 15% off any product to check out using promo code GRIT, GRIT, at oldglory.com. Kyle, Grit of the Week, who do you have for the week of the 21st?
Just back to the well again, dude. Call me. I don't know what you can call me, but like, it seems like every week my dude Kevin McGonigal does like just something fantastic or stats that haven't been done since Ty Cobb, and it happened again, man. So Grit of the Week, Kevin McGonigal, K-Dog. He has reached base 169 times, through 97 games. The list of players age 21 or younger to do that: Juan Soto, Mike Trout, Alex Rodriguez, Ricky Henderson. Like this guy is man, he's doing everything at such a young age. Like it's insane, dude. Until he stops, until we get into another sport that I can give grid of the week to, I'm going to just keep giving grid of the weeks to Kevin McGonigal. He's that good, man.
Yeah, this week, Kevin McGonigal officially joined Ty Cobb as the only players in Tigers history to produce 100 hits in under 100 games. I mean, and that's correct. To be doing that and to have the eye and the discipline that he has, it never ceases to amaze me. He is. We'll get into next week the trade deadline and what we need to do, but he's giving us about as good of a rookie season as we could have asked for. For my grid of the week, I'm going to stick with the baseball diamond as you are. Obviously, we kind of have to, like you mentioned, don't really have any other sports going on, but not that saying these guys aren't worthy of it. I'm going to go with Hao-Yu Lee. Last week I mentioned, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I mentioned and we're going to get into it next week when we talk about some different pieces. If we're going to actually go in and buy and not trade Tarek Skubal, who we can give up. I mentioned Hao-Yu Lee as being maybe an intriguing option for another team since June 1st. So we're going on almost 2 full months. It's a month and 21 days. Since June 1st, he has a batting average of .317. He has, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, 82 at-bats. He has been, I think, about as good. We talk about Kevin McGonigal having a great rookie season. Hao-Yu Lee is quietly having a really, really good season in his rookie year. I believe the guy that we got from just flipping Michael Lorenzen at the trade deadline, if I'm not mistaken. But Hao-Yu Lee, an on-base, an OBP of 341, slugging 476, OPS of 817, again, batting average 317. He has been, there's a lot of guys on this team that are kind of falling out of favor with fans. McKinstry, Vierling, James Outman. Hao-Yu Lee, I think, has been thrown in that group a little bit, but I think when you look at his numbers, like he's definitely earned himself a spot, at least at like the 7, 8, 9 role for this team since June 1st. So shout out to Hao-Yu Lee. I think maybe his first grid of the week from us, maybe wrong, but Hao-Yu Lee, shout out him.
Gotta be, man. How you doing? Yeah, dude, insane. He's got his batting average up to 256 too. So especially for a rookie, nothing to scoff at. And yeah, like you said, just an insane run he's on. Tigers need to keep stacking wins for sure. Shout out Hao-Yu Lee. They are losing right now to the Cubs. Rubber match tomorrow or today as you're listening on Wednesday. But we will be breaking down in next week's episode more on the trade deadline. Of course, the trade deadline for the Tigers and MLB in general. I believe it's Monday, August 3rd in the afternoon, like 3 Central Time, 3 Eastern, somewhere around there. So yeah, we'll be breaking it down, moves that we want to make, if there are moves, whatever we should be doing on next week's episode. I'm pumped for that. Seems like the team's playing well. I would love to see some more Tigers playoff baseball. It's always magical, but we will see.
Yeah, we have plenty to talk about next week on our different options, what we think we should do, what we think we will do, but as we get into that next week, so pay attention to that. That's our show, though. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or on TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. As I mentioned, call in, talk to us about the Red Wings, what you think about the Steve Yzerman firing, or moving on, I should say. What do you think about the Detroit Lions and their position group rankings we gave them? That phone number is 313-306-7939. And then finally, if you like this episode, please take a moment, rate it 5 stars, leave us a review saying what you liked about the show, and follow us on all forms of social media. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar.
A journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Grit Iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats, thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.